Nobody wants anything bad to happen to their motorcycle, which is why lots of us consider bolting frame sliders to our bikes. But is a frame slider going to save your bacon, or could it potentially cause more harm in a crash? We'll investigate in this video from the MC Garage. Frame sliders, crash bobbins, fairing protectors, whatever you call them, they're designed to help protect vulnerable and expensive parts when your motorcycle tilts off of its tires. The theory is that by positioning a sacrificial contact point on the side of the bike, that item will take the brunt of the impact and the abrasion instead of your bodywork, your frame, or your engine cases. This whole crash protection conversation would be so much simpler if these things were just called tip-over protectors. Because even the crappiest kits on the market are going to do something to prevent harm if your bike just falls over at a standstill. And let's be honest, when bikes tip over at the gas station or in your garage, that's a pretty common way for a motorcycle to succumb to gravity. And in those scenarios, these things are a great investment. But motorcycles are made to move, and once you add kinetic energy by ramping up the speed, things get a lot harder to predict. How well frame sliders work in a crash depends on a lot of factors, like how your bike went down. Was it violent, like a high side, or was it more gradual, like a front end push in a sweeping corner? The surface you crash on is also an important factor. Asphalt may be abrasive, but at least it's flat. Soft surfaces like the grassy shoulder of a highway or the gravel trap at a racetrack are likely to cause your bike to dig in and start to cartwheel, and that's when things get really damaged. My point here is that high-speed crashes are unpredictable, capricious SOBs, so you have to have reasonable expectations. Now that we recognize that frame sliders aren't a magical force field, we can talk about these accessories like reasonable people. For starters, frame sliders come in two styles. You've got your cut kits and your no-cut kits. Cut kits require sawing holes in your bodywork for the frame slider to pass through, whereas no-cut kits use brackets that position the slider around the fairing. If the goal is to protect your bodywork, why would you ever want to Dremel a hole in it? Well, as a general rule, cut kits are more structurally sound. The location of the frame slider and its mounting system hasn't been compromised to work around bodywork, so the slider is more likely to stay put and do its job in a crash. Frame sliders also come in varying lengths, from little short pucks that tuck in against the bodywork to really long ones. As a general rule on the street, since you're looking at stationary tip-overs or low-speed falls, a longer slider is better since it's going to keep more parts off the ground. At the same time, that longer slider is more likely to get bent or break its mounting hardware if it gets a lot of force applied to it in a faster crash. That's why guys that are riding at the track or doing racing tend to run shorter frame sliders. They won't do as good a job of keeping your bodywork pretty, but they're less likely to get wrenched off. They keep the bike lower to the ground so that it's less likely to tumble, and they'll still protect the important stuff like the frame and the engine. And if you're serious about crashing like I am, then you not only have frame sliders, you also have case covers and axle sliders, so you have lots of sacrificial points of contact. But whether you're riding on the track or the street, all of this protection isn't going to do much for a motorcycle that's cartwheeling toward the horizon. And that brings us to the contentious bit of forum folklore that says frame sliders will actually cause your bike to flip over and tumble. There is some truth to the forum posts. Remember how I said that longer sliders will hold your bike up, but they also have more leverage on the mounting hardware? Both of those things make it more likely that your bike is going to tumble if you crash at speed, especially if you slide onto softer ground or if the puck isn't made from a suitably low friction material. Blingy pieces made from aluminum or chromed steel aren't going to glide across the ground smoothly and are liable to snag and send your bike into the air. In order for the puck to be effective, it needs to be made from a low friction material that's durable and even a little resilient so that it absorbs some impact energy. That's why brands with half a brain make their pucks from synthetic polymers. And if you're looking at a kit that comes with actual carbon fiber sliders, it might as well be a joke because CF has no abrasion resistance and is going to shatter as soon as it touches the ground. And that brings me to my final words of advice. Frame sliders and other crash protection like case covers and axle sliders are a great investment, but don't buy cheap crap off of eBay like this one here. It is thin, it is chintzy, and it's only located with one bolt so when your bike rolls off the side stand, it's probably going to rotate and crack your fairing. With frame sliders, you definitely get what you pay for, so it's really important to buy from a reputable brand that's actually put some R&D into its design. That's it for this video from the MC Garage. I know that frame sliders are a controversial topic, so feel free to leave your questions and comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, ride safe.